The night was quiet. Only the soft wind moved through the dark forest. A man named Daniel walked slowly, his boots pressing against the wet ground. He was a simple hunter, living far from the city. He did not search for riches or fame. He only wanted food for the coming days. That evening, Daniel had set a trap near the edge of the trees. He believed a deer or rabbit might pass through. The trap was old but strong, made of ropes and wood. He checked it every night before returning home. But tonight, something felt strange. The air carried an energy he could not explain. The silence was heavier than usual. His heart beat faster as he reached the trap. There was movement inside. He expected to see fur, maybe sharp antlers or a frightened rabbit. Instead, his eyes widened in shock. Inside the trap, tangled and trembling, was not an animal. It was a woman. Her skin was pale with a faint glow, like moonlight reflecting on water. Her hair shimmered with silver streaks, and her eyes burned with a strange light. She looked human, yet not human at all. She was something beyond his world. Daniel froze. His breath caught in his chest. His hands shook as he held the lantern closer. The woman hissed softly, her voice weak but sharp. She tried to crawl away, but the trap held her. He whispered, "What are you?" The words slipped out before he could stop them. She flinched, her body pressing against the wooden frame. Her arms were thin but strong, and strange markings glowed on her wrists. Her eyes darted around, as if expecting another danger. She looked more afraid than dangerous. Daniel stepped back. His mind raced. He had heard stories of strange lights in the sky. Some people in nearby towns whispered of visitors from beyond the stars, but never had he believed them, until now. The woman's breathing grew heavy. She pulled at the ropes, but the more she struggled, the tighter they became. Her skin glowed faintly brighter with every movement. He could see her pain. For a moment, Daniel felt fear. What if she was dangerous? What if others were near? His hunter's instinct told him to stay away, yet his heart told him something different. This creature, this alien woman, was not his enemy. She was trapped, and she was suffering. The forest around them seemed to lean closer. Shadows stretched with the flicker of his lantern. Daniel's throat felt dry. He could not leave her, but he did not know how to help her. Her voice finally broke the silence. "Please." The word was weak, trembling, almost human but carrying a strange echo. "Don't hurt me." Daniel's chest tightened. Those words struck deep. He had trapped her by mistake, and now she thought he would harm her. His heart told him he must show her kindness. Slowly, he knelt beside the trap. He kept his hands open, showing he had no weapon. His voice was calm, though his own fear shook within him. "I will not hurt you," he whispered. "You are safe with me." The woman blinked. Her glowing eyes softened for a second. Then doubt returned. She whispered again, her voice broken. "No one is safe. Not with humans." Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. What did she mean? Had she seen others? Had humans already hurt her kind? He wanted to ask, but he could see she was too weak to explain. Instead, he reached for the trap. His fingers moved slowly across the rope. He hesitated. Every instinct warned him that freeing her could be dangerous. But her trembling body and the pain in her eyes pushed him forward. The rope loosened with a quiet snap. She gasped, pulling her arms free. Her skin glowed brighter for a moment, then dimmed, as though the light inside her was fading. She fell forward, too weak to stand. Daniel caught her gently, his arms steady though his heart raced. Her skin was cold yet strangely alive, like touching running water. She looked at him, confusion mixing with fear. "Why?" she whispered. Her voice cracked. "Why not hurt me?" Daniel held her carefully, his voice soft but firm. "Because not all humans are cruel," he said. "You don't deserve pain." For the first time, her eyes glimmered with something different, not fear, but surprise, as though kindness was a language she had never heard before. The forest stayed silent. The night was heavy, but in that moment, something changed. A bond had begun, one born not of power, but of compassion. And deep inside, Daniel knew this meeting was only the beginning. The forest was still, but inside Daniel's mind, everything was storming. He had freed the alien woman, yet fear and questions filled him. Who was she? Where had she come from? Was she alone? Or were there more waiting in the shadows? The woman sat on the ground, her arms hugging herself. She shivered even though the air was not cold. Her silver hair fell across her face as she tried to hide her glowing eyes. Daniel could see she was terrified. Every time he took a step closer, she pulled away, her body tensed like a cornered animal. She whispered in a broken voice, "Don't hurt me, please." Daniel raised his hands again, showing he had no weapon. "I will not harm you," he said gently. His voice was calm, but inside his chest his heart pounded like a drum. She shook her head. "Humans always bring pain." The words cut through the air like a knife. There was sorrow in her voice, but also certainty, as if she had lived this truth many times before. Daniel frowned. He had never seen another like her, never heard of humans capturing someone like her. But her fear was real, and her scars told a story of suffering. He noticed the strange markings on her wrists glowed faintly, but where the rope had cut her skin, the glow flickered weakly. "Let me help," he whispered, taking a step forward. She hissed softly, her body trembling. "No. If I trust you, I will suffer again." Daniel stopped. He understood her fear. He had seen it in animals he caught before. The wild look in their eyes, the belief that the hunter always means death. But this was not an animal. She was someone intelligent, someone who could speak, someone who could feel. For a long moment, silence hung between them. Only the sound of the wind passing through the trees filled the night. Finally, Daniel lowered his lantern and placed it on the ground. The warm light spread around them, pushing the shadows back. He sat down a few steps away from her, not too close, not too far. He wanted to show her he was not a threat. His voice was steady. "If I wanted to hurt you, I would have left you in that trap." Her glowing eyes lifted toward him. The light inside them flickered like a candle fighting against the wind. "Then why free me?" she asked. Her voice carried suspicion, but also a trace of confusion. Daniel thought carefully before answering. "Because pain is not the answer," he said. "You are lost, hurt, afraid, but you are not my enemy." The woman looked away. Her hands clutched her knees. Her breathing was uneven. Her silence was heavy. Daniel did not press her for more. Instead, he sat quietly, letting her decide if she wished to speak. Minutes passed like hours. The forest around them felt endless. Then at last, she whispered, "My name is Soraya." Daniel repeated it softly. "Soraya." The name felt strange yet gentle on his tongue. "I am Daniel." Her eyes lifted again. Her lips trembled. She whispered, "Daniel, why do you not fear me?" He smiled faintly. "I do fear you," he admitted. "But fear does not mean cruelty." Her eyes softened for a brief second, then quickly hardened again. She turned her face away. Her body leaned against a tree. She looked weak, as if her strength was slipping away. Daniel reached into his small leather bag and pulled out a flask of water. He placed it on the ground and pushed it slowly toward her. She flinched, her glowing eyes watching every move. For a moment, she did not touch it. Then her trembling hands reached forward. She lifted the flask and drank slowly. Her throat moved as she swallowed. The sound was soft but powerful. It was the sound of trust beginning to form. When she lowered the flask, her voice was softer. "You are different," she whispered. "But difference does not mean safe." Daniel nodded. "Maybe," he said quietly. "But tonight, I will prove I am not here to harm you." The woman's gaze lingered on him. Her eyes shimmered with both doubt and fragile hope. She did not answer, but she did not run either. That small choice, that small moment, was enough. Daniel knew this was only the start. The bond between them was fragile, like glass ready to break. But he also knew one thing with certainty: he could not turn away now. Something deep inside told him that her presence in his life would change everything. And in the distance, beyond the forest trees, shadows stirred, unseen eyes watching, waiting. The true danger had not yet begun. The night stretched on, and the forest grew colder. Daniel sat near the flickering lantern, his eyes never leaving Soraya. She leaned against the tree, her body weak, her glowing skin dimming like fading starlight. He could see exhaustion pulling her down, yet she fought to keep her eyes open. Fear kept her awake. Fear that if she closed her eyes, he might betray her. Daniel sighed quietly. He understood that trust was not given easily, especially for someone who had been hurt before, but he also knew that without strength, she could not survive the night. From his pack, he pulled out a small piece of bread wrapped in cloth. It was rough and simple, but it was food. He placed it on the ground between them. Then he pushed it gently toward her. Soraya's glowing eyes narrowed. Her body stiffened. "What is this?" she asked, her voice cracked with suspicion. "Food," Daniel replied calmly. "It is not much, but it will help." She hesitated, her trembling hand hovering above the bread. Her expression shifted between hunger and mistrust. Finally, with slow caution, she picked it up. She sniffed it, then tore off a small piece. She placed it against her lips. Her face tightened as though expecting poison. But when the simple taste of bread touched her tongue, her body relaxed. She chewed carefully, then swallowed. A soft sound escaped her lips, almost like relief. Daniel smiled faintly. "See? Not all gifts bring pain." Soraya looked at him, her glowing eyes softer than before. "Why do this?" she whispered. "Why feed me when you could leave me to die?" Daniel leaned back, his voice steady but filled with quiet emotion. "Because kindness is stronger than cruelty," he said. "If someone is suffering, and I can help, then I must help." Her gaze lowered. Her thin fingers tightened around the bread. "No one has spoken to me like that before," she murmured, almost to herself. The silence between them was no longer heavy. It felt different now, fragile but alive, like the first spark of fire on a cold night. Daniel poured a little water into a wooden cup and placed it beside her. Soraya took it, her hands still shaking, but she drank. Each sip seemed to bring a faint glow back into her skin. She whispered again, her voice filled with disbelief. "You do not fear me. You do not hate me. You do not hurt me." Daniel shook his head. "Why would I?" Her lips trembled as she spoke. "Because that is what humans do. They capture, they use, they destroy. I have seen it." Her voice cracked, carrying pain that ran deeper than words. Daniel's chest tightened. He wanted to ask her more, to know what she had suffered, but he saw the shadow of grief in her eyes. He knew pressing her now would only deepen her wounds. Instead, he spoke softly. "Not all humans are the same. Some are cruel, yes, but some are not." Soraya studied him for a long time, her eyes searching for lies, but all she found was truth. She closed her eyes briefly, as if fighting tears. The forest around them whispered with the wind. The stars above shone faintly through the branches. For the first time since their meeting, Soraya's body relaxed, just slightly. Daniel noticed her shivering again. He pulled his worn cloak from his shoulders and placed it gently beside her. She flinched at first, but when the fabric brushed against her skin, warmth wrapped around her. "You will freeze without it," Daniel said. "Take it," she whispered. "You give, and give, yet ask nothing." He smiled faintly. "I only ask for one thing. Trust, not today, not now, but someday." Her glowing eyes flickered, and in them he saw a silent battle. The walls she had built around her heart were high, but a small crack was forming. Soraya pulled the cloak tighter around her body. She leaned her head against the tree. Her voice was soft, almost carried away by the night breeze. "Maybe someday." Daniel's heart steadied. That single word was enough. It was not trust, not yet, but it was a beginning. As Soraya's eyes closed, her breathing grew slower. For the first time, she allowed herself to sleep in his presence. Daniel sat awake, guarding her, his hand resting on the hilt of his knife, not against her, but against the unseen dangers of the forest. Because though Soraya had found a moment of peace, Daniel knew the world beyond those trees was not safe, and whatever had hurt her before might soon come searching. And if they did, he would be ready. The first light of dawn touched the forest, pale beams slipping between the branches. Daniel had not slept. His eyes stayed on Soraya, guarding her through the night. She slept curled beneath his cloak, her silver hair glowing faintly in the morning light. When she finally stirred, her glowing eyes opened slowly. For a brief second, she looked at him with panic. Then she remembered where she was. Her body relaxed, but only a little. "You stayed awake," she whispered. Her voice was soft, almost fragile. Daniel nodded. "Someone had to watch over you." Her gaze lowered. "You could have left me while I slept." "I could have," he said, "but I didn't." Silence fell again, but it was not heavy like before. It was fragile, like glass that could break with a single wrong word. Soraya held the cloak close to her chest. Her lips trembled. She seemed torn between fear and something else, something she did not yet trust herself to feel. Finally, she asked, "Why?" Daniel looked at her carefully. His voice was calm. Because you remind me of someone, my sister. She was afraid once, trapped in a place she didn't belong. I helped her, and I will help you. Soraya's glowing eyes widened. For a moment, the suspicion in them faded. You speak of family, she whispered. Humans value this bond. More than anything, Daniel answered, his voice steady. Family means we protect one another, even when it is hard. Her lips pressed together. Her eyes shimmered with something close to sorrow. She whispered, I had a family once. Daniel leaned forward slightly, but he did not push her to explain. Instead, he simply said, I'm sorry. Her voice cracked as she spoke. They abandoned me. The words hung heavy in the morning air. Daniel felt his chest tighten. He wanted to ask why, but he saw the pain in her eyes. He knew the wound was too deep. Soraya turned away, her hair falling across her face. I am alone now, she whispered, and alone is death. Daniel shook his head. His voice was firm. You are not alone anymore, not while I am here. For the first time, Soraya looked at him with no suspicion. Her glowing eyes shimmered with tears that did not fall. Her lips parted, but no words came. The silence between them said enough. Just then, a sound echoed through the forest, the crack of a branch breaking. Daniel's head snapped toward the trees. His instincts sharpened. His hand moved to his knife. Soraya stiffened. Her glow dimmed. They are coming, she whispered. Her voice carried terror. Daniel frowned. Who? Her voice trembled. The hunters, the ones who cast me out. They will not let me live. They will take me back or end me. His blood ran cold. The truth hit him like a storm. Soraya was not only a victim of fate, she was being hunted, and those who searched for her were near. He crouched lower, motioning for her to stay quiet. The morning birds had gone silent. Even the forest seemed to hold its breath. Somewhere beyond the trees, footsteps crunched against the earth, slow and deliberate. Daniel's mind raced. He had only his knife. He had no army, no plan, and yet he felt no thought of running. His gaze shifted to Soraya, fragile, trembling, yet alive. He could not abandon her. Soraya's whisper reached him again. If they find me, they will kill you too. Daniel shook his head firmly. Then they will have to try. Her glowing eyes widened. A mix of fear and disbelief shone in them. Why would you risk your life for me? Daniel's voice was steady. Because kindness is only real when it costs something. Soraya stared at him. Her lips trembled. Her eyes shimmered with both fear and hope. Indiana that moment. Something changed between them. A fragile bond began to grow stronger. The footsteps in the distance grew louder. Shadows shifted between the trees. The hunters were close. Daniel gripped his knife tightly. His heart pounded. The fight for Soraya's survival had only just begun. And this time, Daniel knew, kindness would demand courage. The forest no longer felt safe. The sound of footsteps in the distance grew clearer. Daniel's grip tightened on his knife. His eyes scanned the trees, waiting for the shadows to reveal themselves. Soraya sat trembling beside him, her glow flickering like a candle fighting the wind. They are close, she whispered. You must leave me. If they see you with me, you will die. Daniel shook his head firmly. I will not leave you. Her glowing eyes widened in disbelief. Why risk your life? You owe me nothing. Daniel's voice was steady, calm, but filled with quiet strength. You are not nothing. You deserve to live. You deserve a chance to be free. Soraya's lips trembled. Her body leaned slightly closer, as though the warmth of his words gave her strength. In that moment, something fragile but real began to grow between them. Not just trust, but connection. A rustle of leaves snapped their attention. Daniel pulled Soraya behind a thick tree trunk. He crouched low, his heart pounding. Through the branches, he saw 3 tall figures moving silently. Their skin was pale like Soraya's, but their armor was dark, sharp, and heavy. Strange weapons glowed faintly in their hands. Soraya's breath caught. Her body froze. Them, she whispered with terror. They came for me. Daniel studied the hunters. His mind raced. He knew his knife was no match for their weapons, but he also knew one thing. He would not hand her over. The hunters paused, scanning the ground. One of them knelt, touching the soil where Soraya's faint glow had brushed against the leaves. She was here. The hunter hissed, his voice cold and sharp. She cannot hide for long. Soraya's hand gripped Daniel's arm. Her fingers were cold. Her whisper was urgent. If they find us, they will not only take me, they will kill you for helping me. Daniel looked into her glowing eyes. His jaw tightened. Then we make sure they don't find us. He motioned for her to move quietly. Together they slipped deeper into the forest. Every step was careful, slow. Daniel guided her away from the sound of the hunters. His instincts as a tracker now turned into instincts of survival. After what felt like endless minutes, they reached a hidden clearing. The air here was still, surrounded by thick trees and heavy roots. Daniel signaled for Soraya to rest. She leaned against a fallen log, her chest rising and falling with shaky breaths. "You are not safe with me," she whispered. "If you stay, you will lose everything." Daniel crouched beside her, his eyes steady. "I have already chosen." Her lips parted, her eyes filled with a light that was not just glow, but emotion. "Chosen what?" she asked, her voice fragile. Daniel's voice was calm but powerful. "To stand with you, no matter the cost." Her breath caught. Her hands trembled as though she had never heard such words before. She looked at him as if he was something impossible, something unreal. Her voice broke as she whispered, "No one has ever chosen me before." Daniel placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "Then let me be the first." For a long moment, silence surrounded them. Not heavy, not fearful, but alive. Soraya's eyes shimmered with a fragile hope. Her fear did not vanish, but it began to change into something new, something stronger. Then, as if sensing the danger still looming, she reached into the folds of her strange clothing and pulled out a small object. It glowed faintly in her palm, a shard of crystal-like light. "What is that?" Daniel asked softly. Soraya hesitated, then whispered, "It is a memory stone, a piece of my world. It holds what I was before they cast me out." Her voice broke. "I should not give it away, but if I fall, you must keep it safe." Daniel stared at the glowing shard. His chest tightened. He closed her hand gently over it. "No," he said firmly. "You will not fall, not while I stand with you." Her eyes shimmered. For the first time, a tear slid down her pale cheek. She whispered, "Daniel, you do not understand. They will not stop until I am gone." Daniel's gaze hardened. "Then we will make them stop." The bond between them deepened in that moment, forged not in safety, but in danger, not in peace, but in courage. And in the distance, the hunters' voices echoed once more. They were closer, their shadows growing. Soraya clutched the cloak tighter around herself. But this time, though fear filled her eyes, she was not alone. Because Daniel had made his choice, and together, they would face what came next. The forest no longer whispered with peace. It groaned with the weight of danger. Every sound carried a threat. Every shadow hid an enemy. Daniel kept Soraya close as they moved between thick trees, his knife ready, his senses sharp. But Soraya's glow betrayed them. Even when she tried to dim her light, faint silver sparks glimmered across her skin, a trail for those who hunted her. The hunters were near. Daniel could hear their voices carried by the wind, cold, commanding, merciless. "She is close." One of them hissed, "Do not fail this time." Soraya froze. Her trembling hand grabbed Daniel's sleeve. "We cannot fight them," she whispered. Her voice was cracked with terror. "Their weapons burn through flesh and stone. You will die if you face them." Daniel's jaw tightened. He looked into her glowing eyes. "Then I will die standing, not running." Her lips parted in shock. For a moment, she forgot her fear. "Why?" she whispered. "Why risk everything?" His voice was firm, steady as steel. "Because no one deserves chains. Not you, not anyone." Before she could answer, a blast of light struck the tree beside them. The wood exploded in sparks and smoke. Soraya screamed softly. Daniel pulled her down, shielding her with his body. The hunters had found them. 3 pale figures stepped into the clearing, their armor dark, their weapons glowing with deadly fire. Their eyes were cold, without mercy. One of them raised his weapon, pointing directly at Soraya. His voice cut through the air, sharp and cruel. "You should not have run. Outcast, you belong to us." Soraya's body shook. Her voice cracked. "No, not again." Daniel stood quickly, knife in hand, his body placed between her and the hunters. "She belongs to no one," he growled. The hunters laughed, a sound without warmth. A human protects her. One mocked. Foolish creature, you will fall first. Daniel's grip on his knife tightened. He knew he was outmatched. Their weapons glowed with energy far beyond his steel. Yet he stood tall. His heart beat like thunder, but his spirit refused to bow. Then try me, he said, his voice steady. The first hunter stepped forward, weapon raised. But before he could fire, Soraya's glow flared. Her trembling hands lifted, and the shard of crystal she had shown Daniel earlier pulsed with light. The hunters hesitated, their eyes narrowing. One snarled. She still carries the stone. Take it, it belongs to us. Soraya's voice shook but carried strength. It does not belong to you. It is mine. It is who I am. The glow from the crystal spread, wrapping her body in silver light. Her fear did not vanish, but for the first time, she stood beside Daniel instead of behind him. Daniel glanced at her, his heart pounding with both fear and awe. Soraya, he whispered, stay strong. The hunters raised their weapons again. A storm of light and fire was seconds away. Daniel lifted his knife, ready to fight even against impossible odds. He knew he could die here, but he would not take a single step back. Soraya gripped his arm, her voice urgent. If we fight here, you will not survive. There is another way. What way? He asked quickly. Her glowing eyes locked with his. Trust me. Daniel nodded without hesitation. Always. The crystal in her hand blazed with silver fire. The ground beneath them vibrated. Lights swirled like a storm. The hunters shouted in anger, raising their weapons to strike. But before they could release their fire, the clearing erupted in a wave of blinding light. Daniel felt himself pulled into it, his body weightless, his mind spinning. He clutched Soraya's hand tightly, refusing to let go. The last thing he heard was the hunters' furious cries, drowned by the roar of the light. Then the forest was gone, and so were they. When the blinding light faded, Daniel gasped. The forest was gone. He now stood inside a vast cave of glowing stone. The walls shimmered with silver veins, and the air pulsed with quiet energy. Beside him, Soraya fell to her knees, the crystal shard glowing faintly in her palm. Her breath was heavy, her body trembling, but her eyes burned with determination. Daniel knelt beside her. Where are we? Her voice was weak but steady. A sanctuary, one of the last places my kind cannot reach. He frowned. Your kind? The hunters, they are like you. She nodded, sorrow filling her eyes. Yes, they are my people, but they cast me out because I could not obey. I would not become what they wanted. To them, I am broken, worthless. Only the stone still ties me to my past. Daniel's chest tightened. So they hunt you, for refusing them? Her lips trembled. Yes, and now you suffer because of me. Daniel shook his head firmly, his voice calm but fierce. No, I suffer nothing. I chose this, and I would choose it again. Her glowing eyes widened. For a long moment she stared at him. Then her body sagged, and for the first time, she allowed herself to lean fully against him. You are strange, human, she whispered. Strange and kind. Daniel smiled faintly. Strange is not always bad. Before they could rest, the ground trembled. A deep rumble shook the cave. Soraya's eyes went wide with fear. They followed us, she whispered. The hunters will break through. Daniel rose to his feet, knife in hand. His heart thundered, but his spirit stood strong. Then we fight. Soraya shook her head. You cannot fight them with only steel. She held out the glowing crystal, her hand trembling. But with this, together, we may stand a chance. Daniel hesitated. I don't understand it. Her voice broke. You don't need to, just trust me. He placed his hand over hers, gripping the crystal with her. At once, the shard flared with brilliant silver light. The glow surged across their joined hands, flowing into their bodies. Daniel gasped as warmth and strength flooded his chest. The cave walls burst open, and the hunters stepped through, their dark armor glowing, weapons raised. Their voices were sharp with fury. Outcast, you cannot hide. The stone belongs to us. Soraya's voice rose, no longer weak but powerful. It belongs to no one but me. The crystal blazed brighter, light swirling around her and Daniel. The hunters fired their weapons. Beams of searing fire cut through the air, but the light shielded them, absorbing the strikes. Daniel felt his fear melt away. replaced with courage unlike anything he had ever known. He stepped forward beside Soraya, their hands still joined. His voice thundered through the cave. "You will not take her." The hunters pressed forward, but the light pushed them back. For every step they took, the glow burned hotter, brighter, forcing them to stumble. One shouted in rage, "You are weak, outcast, you cannot win." Soraya's voice rang like steel. "Alone, I was weak, but with kindness, I am strong." The crystal exploded in a wave of silver fire. The hunters screamed as the light engulfed them. Their armor cracked, their weapons shattered, and then, like shadows at dawn, they were gone. Silence fell. The cave glowed gently once more. Daniel lowered his knife, his breath heavy. Soraya fell into his arms, her body trembling but alive. "You did it," Daniel whispered. Her lips curved faintly into the smallest smile. "No," she whispered back, "we did it." Daniel held her close, his heart steady. He had caught her by mistake, but in that mistake, he had found something greater than he could ever imagine. Kindness had become strength. Fear had turned into trust, and together, they had built something unbreakable. For Soraya, it was the first time she was not an outcast, but chosen. For Daniel, it was proof that even across worlds, humanity was not about blood, but about compassion. And as they stood in the glowing cave, side by side, they knew this was not the end, but the beginning of a new story. A story born not of pain, but of kindness.